Shalom Uvracha, everybody. We're continuing with likutey halachot from last week. We were talking about the idea of seeing the good in ourselves and seeing the good in others. So he says, it's not enough just to seek only the good in ourselves. We should also judge others favorably. He must look for some and find some good point in everybody, even in a person who others see as thoroughly wicked. Just like we look for the good in ourselves and it lifts us out of despair and into merit, finding the good in others will lift them out of their bad and into merit and bring them closer to Hashem. Whoever basically can do this, to find a good point even in people that are sinners. The person who can do this is fitting to be a chazan, fitting to be the person who can lead the congregation in prayer. Why is this? What's the idea here? This is really the work of the righteous people in the generation. What are the righteous people doing in every generation? They gather up the good points of all the people and they bring up, it's called the Mishkan. They bring up the place of holiness for God's divine presence to manifest. By revealing the good points in people, they construct this edifice, and from there, when we can construct this edifice, so to speak, that the righteous people are doing, this gives the holiness to the children that they're learning. Children that are learning, they are pure. So when they're learning Torah, which is pure, this brings a lot of merit for the nation, for the world. Besides this, there's also a universal tzaddik, basically. There are certain souls that include all of the souls of the nation. This soul, who is capable of gathering up the good that is found in everybody, he is able to basically up the whole edifice, the whole building of all our souls. That's like the highest level. So going back to this idea of waking up from the sleep, that we feel, what's sleep in a spiritual level? Spiritual slumber. Seeking the good in ourselves, seeking the good in others is waking up from this spiritual slumber. When someone realizes that they're distant from God, they're distant from spirituality, someone might feel despondent, they might feel low in energy and spirit. This is like sleep. It's like 1/60th of death. The rabbis teach that sleep is 1/60th of death. So when someone is in a low energy, it's like a bit of death. By seeking and finding the good in ourselves and in others, we revive ourselves, we cheer ourselves up. We use that fragment of good to rouse ourselves to serve God, and this is waking up from our sleep. And this is what it says in the verse, that it says, King David says, Hashem, how numerous are my tormentors? There are so many. Who are these tormentors? The tormentors of the soul. The things that a person did that are not good. Sins, spiritual blemishes, which really ends up being our greatest suffering. And that's the truth. That's what a person suffers from. Their mistakes, the bad things that they've done in their life, that's what comes back to bite them. And when they overpower a person, so to speak, the negative is overpowering, what are they trying to do? They're trying to totally defeat someone. They want to make someone feel as if that person has no hope. Chas v'shalom. He says, it's the opposite and may there be peace. It's not the truth. There's always hope. King David says, he continued on that line of thought, that someone thinks that they have no chance, that King David says, many say of me, which is talking about the sins, he will never be saved by Hashem. The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, tricks the person into thinking that all is lost. And so then when the person thinks all is lost, he is basically asleep. King David says, I lay down and slept. This alludes to basically hopelessness and downheartedness of spiritual slumber. The truth is, he says, that a person should never despair. It's forbidden for us to despair. We must overcome any feelings of hopelessness. We must overcome any feelings of hopelessness and wake up from our spiritual sleep by finding the little bit of good that we find in ourselves. He said, look for the little bit of good. And that's how King David concludes the verse. He says, I woke up, for Hashem supports me. Even though I lay down and slept, I strengthen myself to wake up from my sleep. I keep myself from despair because I know that Hashem supports me. Even the little bits of good that I did, God will find it and will help us out. The good point that we find in ourselves is an aspect of godliness. So whatever good exists in the world really exists from God. So any good that I did really is a part of God that's in me. I shouldn't feel depressed. I should realize that God the little good that's in me, that's God that's inside of me. It says that the Torah, the Jewish people, and Hashem are entirely one. So when a good point exists in a Jew, basically a mitzvah or something good, that good is completely bound up in the unity with Hashem. For Hashem is good to all. He is all that is good. He is the origin and essence of all that is good in his existence. As it says in the verse, taste and see that Hashem is good. Any good, no matter where it exists or what form it takes, comes solely from God. And this is what King David was saying, Hashem supports me. The good points that I find in myself is from God. Hashem is good to all, and that's what supports me and wakes me up from my sleep. And then King David says, I have no fear of the many thousands who have arrayed against me on every side. Once I find the good inside of me, I'm not afraid of the persecution of the bad. I'm not afraid even of all of these spiritual blemishes and sins that threaten me. They may be thousands. I'm untroubled because I found some remaining good point inside of myself, and I can wake myself from that spiritual sleep. This brings the person to merit. It helps the person do tshuva, to return to God. All of the evil of one's spiritual blemishes and sins is cast aside by the little bit of good that a person can find himself. So with this little bit of good, the person can revive himself or herself and raise themselves up. Because just a little bit of light chases away a lot of darkness. And he says, this is implied in the verse, I woke up and I'm with you, God. Basically, but he says, not just I'm with you, in the Hebrew he says, V'odi. Ve'od me'at, the little bit of good, I can sing with that little bit of good. And that will help me wake up from the spiritual sleep and wake up from the negativity. Be'ezrat Hashem. So let's keep on finding the good and lift ourselves up to better and better energy at all times. God bless you all. Have a great day.